Okay. So, all right. So you were a coach for me for 4 years.
Hmm.
Um, so when you decided to start coaching, did you have any like inspirations or motivations that like pushed you to coach? Kind of like who was there somebody in the past or like a coach in the past that inspired you or that you thought about when you decided to start coaching?
Yeah, I had a baseball coach as a kid in high school, and his name was Fazio, Don Fazio, and he used to play for the Rochester Red Wings, where I grew up, and for the Baltimore Orioles. And he was just a fantastic person. But I learned from all my coaches when I played sports in high school. I just felt like I had some of the best coaches. They were always there to lead you and guide you in more ways than just sports. So that's why when I was young, I wanted to grow up and be a teacher and a coach because most of my coaches, actually all of my coaches, were also teachers. So that was where I got my inspiration. And so when the opportunity arose to coach for you, I didn't think I was going to have the time. I was not at first excited about it. I had a lot of feelings of, boy, what if I stink and let my son down? And but after prayer and continued talks with the league, um, it really came down to me asking them what team will I be coaching, and they told me it was the Angels, and I just felt in the spirit that God was telling me to coach, so I did.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so how have you carried, some of maybe, you had so many coaches in the past. How have you carried like their philosophies? Each coach has a coaching philosophy. How have you carried some of their coaching philosophies into your coaching philosophy?
Hmm, great
Or where
question.
have you, yeah, like that question, and then also like how have you learned your coaching philosophy? Where does all that come from? Where does it stem from?
Mhm. My coaches taught me to be very positive at all times. My coaches taught me to work with young adults to understand or to help them understand that they're capable of anything if they put their mind to it. So, but my coaches also, when we reached a point of making it to a playoff or something like that, they knew how to set set a higher bar for us to reach and how to motivate us to get there. So I took those skills along with not only my skills from or not only the things I learned from them, but from others I've learned from business leaders, people I've worked with. Um, and just I basically went there and I remember teaching all the players that you cannot make a mistake playing baseball. This is all about having fun. And and I would put them all through this preseason test of running to first base as fast as they could. And after they did that run and they were tired and they thought they gave their best, then I asked them for their very best and had them rerun that after they were tired at the end of practice and rerun to first base. And 100% of the time, every player exceeded by far their first run speed. And that always amazed me. Um, every year, I was always waiting for that one to not give their very best, but they did, which made me feel proud because I knew that when I needed them, I could call upon them and they would give their very best. And that is what won us multiple championships because I didn't call on them during the season, but it was always for that final game. This is the time. Give your very best. And they always did.
Hmm. Hmm. With all of that and all of just the motivation you've given to your players, obviously, we achieved so much. But what would you say has been your proudest moment relating to a player's growth as a coach? What can you explain a story of just watching maybe a single player grow so much?
Mm. Wow. So many players grew. Wow. Well, I'd really have to ponder that question, but off the top of my head, I'm gonna say that there was, whew, yeah, so many players. Obviously, I could use you as a great example. There was just so much growth in you. As a father, that was my proudest moment. Um, as a father coach, but just as a coach to all the other players, I recall a player. I don't want to. I don't think I want to name his name, but at the beginning of the season, I had all the players close their eyes, and I said, "I want you all to raise. I want all you guys to raise your hand if you believe you are a leader." And pretty much everybody would raise their hand. But this one year, one of the players did not raise his hand. And I said, so then I said, raise your hand if you don't feel you're a leader. And he raised his hand. He was the only one. And I had coached him before. I just never knew he felt that way inside. So what I did at that practice after I asked that question, and do you know who this is, Kyle?
No.
No, good. Yeah, I want to keep it quiet. But after that practice, or during that practice, um, he was, we were doing warm ups and stuff, and he was in the outfield and stuff. I went out to him and I said, "Hey," I said, I need a favor from you this year. And I coached him before, 2 or 3 times, maybe more. I said, "I need a favor from you this year." He's like, "What's that?" I said, I'm really big on finding that leadoff hitter. I need somebody who's going to be a leader, who's going to get on that bag first and score that first run. I said, "Now, I've never asked you to do this in the past, but I'd like you to be that person this year. Do you think you can be that person?" And he looked at me and he just looked up at me and he says, "Yeah, coach, I could be that person." I said, "Then you're my leadoff hitter this year." And he was. And he did great. And then halfway through the season, after some magnificent game he had, I went up to him, I put my arm around him, I said, "Hey, I remember the first practice. And I remember when you said you didn't feel like you were a leader. Do you feel like a leader now?" And he smiled. He says, "Yeah, I do." And that was really important to me because all the kids, as we, from team to team, when we won the championships, we left a lot of kids heartbroken. So my following year, I would always try to target those kids that we beat the year before, the ones who took it the hardest. I wanted them on our team. I wanted to make them all champions. And I didn't know I was going to do it, but I knew we had a great team with myself and Cody, my assistant. I mean, we were both motivators. We both loved all you kids. as athletes, but Cody just had this magic with youth and really just inspired them with his stories. And he was just so passionate. Where I was more of the structure and love, Cody was more of the love. And we just worked really well together.